Hi friends, it's Mitzi. I'm back again with an astrology video. This time I wanted to walk you through all the planets that are in your natal chart and what each planet stands for. Normally when we think about astrology or the zodiac or your horoscope sign, you're thinking about your sun sign. And in fact, that's probably the only planet. I would say that 9 out of 10 people, unless they're super into astrology, they think about their sun sign and they identify with their sun sign, or they are open about their disbelief in astrology because they don't identify with their sun sign. And that's because your natal chart, or who you are, or the planetary alignment that existed when you were born, varies from person to person, and it's unique to you, like your fingerprints. So today I want to talk to you about all of the planets that are in your natal chart, what they mean, what they are responsible for. And in this series of astrology videos, my aim is to help you connect with yourself better. And also, if you are, looking to find romantic compatibility, to also highlight what you should be looking for. Hint, it's not your sun sign. I know, right? Because again, when most people look at romantic compatibility, they're like, I'm going to see if my sun sign lines up with this person's sun sign. And honestly, that doesn't really matter. I know, spoiler alert. Anyways, speaking of sun, let's start with the sun. It's the brightest, most beautiful star in the galaxy. Your sun represents your ego, right? It's your soul. It shows where you shine. Your sun is literally how you shine. Okay, it's what, your good friend knows about you, but they're not your best friend, so they don't see the dark aspects of you. They don't see other aspects of you, right? They see your sun. When someone thinks fondly of you, they're probably thinking about your ego, right? How you made their ego feel, right? Because the sun is your ego. So how your ego connects with someone else's ego, and if it shines a light on them, they're probably going to think highly of you. So that's what the sun represents in your natal chart. Then you have your moon. This is my favorite planet. I love the moon. I connect with the moon so much, which is why I'm always doing new moon or full moon rituals, because I deeply connect with the moon. The moon is our emotional center. It's how we feel. It's how we emotionally react to things. It's who we are at home. It's the side of you that like two people know about, right? That inner you, literally the heart of who you are, is your moon sign. And it's the number one planet that I look for in romantic compatibility, because if your moon is not compatible with another person's moon, odds are you're not going to have an easygoing relationship with that person. So your moon sign, in terms of love and looking for love, is one of the most important planets. So, I mean, think about it. It's your feeling. It's how you feel emotionally safe. You want to have someone that adds on to your emotional security and safety as a partner. You don't want somebody that makes you feel like you can't be yourself, or like you're walking on eggshells. Like, that's not someone you can build a commitment with, right? So your moon sign is incredibly important. Then we have Mercury. Everybody has Mercury in their sign. Mercury is in their natal chart. Sorry, Mercury is how you think. It's how you communicate. It's how you express yourself. I am a hand talker because I'm a Gemini rising, and Gemini is a planet that is a sign that's ruled by Mercury. So I'm very mercurial. Yeah, so how we express ourselves, how we think, how we communicate. If you are shy, if you have a hard time expressing yourself, you may have a debilitated Mercury. You may have Mercury having harsh aspects to other planets, like Saturn, for example, which we'll get into when we talk about planets aspecting other planets. Mercury is incredibly important. It's your mind, okay? Venus is the next planet. Venus is how we love It's how we spend our money. It's how we look for pleasure. It's what we define as our pleasure. Pleasure could be, all the things that make you happy. That's the beauty of pleasure, is you define what brings you pleasure, right? And that's Venus. Venus are all the things that you feel make life beautiful and luxurious. Venus defines those things for you. Those material things are all Venus. Mars, the planet Mars, is our deepest drive, our endurance, our sexual desires. Mars is how we go after our goals, right? If we have a lackadaisical Mars, we may have a hard time accomplishing our goals. If we have a fire Mars, we may or may not accomplish our goals, but we're going to try. We're going to go after it, right? If your Mars is in Aries, for example, so my Mars is in Aries, I get so excited about projects, and then I go after them, and then I'm like, well, something else has now distracted me, so I'm going to go do that now. But like a Mars in Capricorn, for example, would not react that way. They would be very excited about the project, and then they would have a strategy, and then they would have a plan, and then they would have an execution for the plan. And if it involves delegating work to other people, they would have all those people listed out, and then they would go after it, and then they would succeed, and then they'd look at their watch, and then they'd be like, I'm going to go get a Negroni because I've got time for a drink, maybe even smoke a stogie. I don't know. My work is done, right? Whereas like a Mars and Aries, we get really excited, we get really passionate, and then something else comes in and we're equally passionate about that thing. And so things will get completed in their due time. But that's Mars. It's how we go after it. It's our sex drive. It's our endurance. It's how we love to do things. We have Jupiter in our chart. I love Jupiter. It's our abundance. It's our luck. It's where we grow and expand in our chart. It's in our life, right? Wherever you're blessed with luck, if you're like, gosh, I'm always like, if I do scratchers, I always win something. That's so weird. You might have, a Jupiter placed in your second house, or your eighth house, right? Like a good Jupiter placement that allows you to get financially lucky here and there, right? So it's always good to know where your Jupiter is. Then you have Saturn. I love Saturn. People love to hate on Saturn. And frankly, I don't blame people who like to hate on Saturn, because Saturn is a hard planet. It is cold, it's conservative, it takes forever, right, for things that are in Saturn to reach maturity. Saturn are the places in your chart, wherever Saturn is located in your chart is where you will experience your biggest challenge, right? And discipline, where you will need lots of discipline to be successful, and where you are likely to see the consequences of your action. And like I said, no one really works well with their Saturn until after you've had your first Saturn return, which is after you turn 30, which is why things up until the age of 30 are a hot mess. And you go through something called your midlife crises, and just all kinds of stuff, right? Think about your teenage years where you're like, I know everything, I don't need guidance, but we don't know anything, right? And then we get to our 20s and we're like, oh my God, my 20s are awesome. But then you wake up crying and you're like, oh, actually, they're not awesome. I'm still, I don't know, drowning in debt. And now I'm getting more debt just to live. And I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but I'm supposed to know because I'm done with college, maybe, if I went to college, or I'm just working this job and my life has no meaning. And oh my God, right? Can you feel that anxiety? Well, that's Saturn disciplining you, and he's like Father Time, and he's going to take his sweet time to teach you those lessons that you need to learn. Lessons of what it is that I want to do with my life, what it is that I value, what kind of person I am as a friend, as a lover, as a parent, if that's something that came to you. Things that have big responsibilities before you're ready for them tend to fall apart before your Saturn return, because we're literally not ready to work with them, to accept those energies, and even to understand them. So that's why Saturn gets a bad rap. But once you understand how to work with that Saturnian energy in your chart, you will see greater success. Neptune is another planet that is in our natal chart. Neptune rules our fantasies, our illusions, our self-delusions, right? Neptune is how we like to project on others. Like, we see a person not for who they really are, but for who that we want them to be. And if you get caught into these delusions, it can be really harmful for your relationships, friendships, parental, amorous. Neptunian relationships don't necessarily have a good grounding in reality. So you have to be really careful, but that doesn't mean that Neptunian energy isn't beautiful. It is. You just have to harness it, okay? Because there are no boundaries with Neptune. Neptune shows where in your chart you lack boundaries. It also shows where in your chart you have deep spirituality, and also where you have empathy, the greatest empathy. That's shown in Neptune. Uranus is one of my favorite planets. Uranus is the planet of rebellion and freedom and independence. It shows where our genius is, because everyone is a natural genius at something. Everyone is a natural creative. Everyone has that something that makes you uniquely you. Whatever it is that makes you uniquely you, right? The one thing when people say, when I think about so and so, the first thing that comes to mind is that they are this, and that. What they are talking about are your Uranian traits, right? Because that is what makes you uniquely you. Uranus loves to rebel. It's where you're a little anti-authoritarian. So it's always interesting in me to know where people's Uranus is, because that's where you push back and you march to the beat of your own drum. And that's frankly very beautiful. And finally, the last planet I want to talk about is one of my favorite planets, Pluto. Pluto is another one that gets a bad rap like Saturn, but for different reasons. While Saturn is very strict, Pluto is very destructive. It's the planet of power. It's the planet of transformation, the planet of rebirth, the planet of, depending on if it's badly aspected, betrayal and deceit. But it's our strength. It's where we dominate, right? Wherever Pluto is in your chart will have a fierce intensity to it, and you will take things so seriously. All of these things interacting in your natal chart will affect who you are as a person, and they contribute to your overall personality. So now that you are aware of these, please, by all means, if you have your natal chart, go ahead, look at it, see where all these energies are in your chart, and find out and think of ways that they play out in your daily life without you even thinking about it. And just have a great time getting to know yourself. That's the best part of astrology. And in our next video, since we've got all this information down, I'm going to start talking about romantic compatibility. And I hinted about it here with the moon being one of the things that I look at when I look at synastry charts. But I want you to also keep in mind what it is that you like in a relationship and what it is that you look for in a relationship, so that when I start talking about compatibility and how astrology can help you outline that, you'll have a clearer understanding of what all this planetary energy means for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to having really fun astrological conversations with you. Thanks so much. Bye.